lived in an absolutely sketchy area 5 minutes down the road. Hey, I'm Negeen. I have to say my name in the beginning of every video because I honest to God have no idea how you're pronouncing it in your head. This video is gonna be right to the jugular. I am gonna be giving a full-on survival guide on moving out for the first time. Are you living with your parents? This is a video for you. Have you just broken up with your significant other, or they ripped your heart out and now you have to live alone in an apartment? Or maybe you are miserable and this video showed up on your newsfeed. Well, whatever the reason is, this video should be helpful for one of you. Anyway, I had a session with my therapist like a week and a half ago, and we realized that I have never been set up for adulting. Had great parents, very loving. They basically just put a protective bubble around me and I wasn't able to adult. I wasn't able to get out in the world and make mistakes and experience things. So I began that journey, well, right now in my 27th year on this planet Earth. What is this video on? Moving out for the first, okay, I need to like rope it back in. So in this video, I'm gonna be talking about moving out for the first time and what to expect when you're moving into your first apartment, home, and kind of like little tips that I wish I got, all the way down to like the leasing office, all the way down to when you move into your apartment and it's all bare walls, but there are imperfections. What do you do? Stuff like that. So I think this video will be really helpful. Maybe I can segue into like an adulting series. And before we get into the video, do you know what's coming right now? If you're new to my channel, I'm sorry for the next 2 seconds. Are you subscribed to my channel? Because if you're not, then why are you even here? Why are you on YouTube? Like, if you're not subscribing me, then I'm not subscribing you. I don't know what any of that meant, but just know it was a threat. I'm just kidding. For legal reasons, I am joking. Let's get into the video because it's gonna be a thick one. THICC. The first chapter in my survival guide booklet is finding your home. Have an idea of what kind of home you want to live in. Even if you're on a budget, you can still find your ideal home. I say this because before I lived in this complex, I lived in an absolutely sketchy area 5 minutes down the road. I'm not even lying to you. It was, this apartment complex was beat up. Literally, I don't want to say names, but it was torn up from the front to the bottom. From the top to the bottom. It honestly, like anytime I had friends over, they were like, are you safe in this area of town? And the answer was no. I'm just kidding. I actually was more safe there than I am here. We'll get into that later, but I want you to imagine like a rinky-dink apartment that like you drive by and you're like, yikes, I would never want to live there. That's where I was. The point of this is I made it into such a beautiful, cozy little home, and I never had insects. It was actually a great experience, but I made it into the kind of vibe that I wanted. So when you're finding your home, you're having to move out, have an idea of what you want. For example, you want white walls, lots of space, washer and dryer in unit, 2 bedrooms, and like a pool at the complex. Pick one of them that means a lot to you, and then go from there, because like myself, I'm on a budget. I had to really compromise at that time. At this time, I'm suffering financially, but you know, it all works out in the end. So, okay, so the next thing is touring places. This is still in finding your home. When you're looking for an apartment, let's say, the prices significantly increase in the summertime. The reason for that is college kids are moving out, they're moving in, and a lot of people typically do like their move outs in the summertime, which increases the prices of apartment units. It's just kind of like the way that it is. If you want a significantly cheaper price point, then I would wait until the winter time. That's when they're like putting out a lot of the deals. Not a lot of people are moving in the winter time because it's so cold and it's like hard to move. So a little more unpredictable on that end of the season. But if you're really wanting to get a good deal, the end of the season would be a great time. When my ex and I broke up, we broke up in July, which really screwed me over because I had to like move out immediately. I decided to live with my parents the whole month of August because I knew, I was aware that the prices would be a lot more. And so I ended up moving into this place like September 1st. So I know that whenever I do move out of this unit next year in the summertime, it's really gonna like rip me a new one because it's just gonna be really expensive to find another home in this really like hot season of expensive units. So just keep in mind that if I were you and I had an opportunity, I would move into my place in like November, October, December, like tail end of the year when it's a lot colder and the prices are a little bit lower. Okay, so the next thing is proof of income. When you are looking for an apartment, they're very particular about how much money you make because they don't want to get screwed over by you not being able to afford your apartment rent every single month. For my apartment complex, the threshold was $45,000 a year to be qualified to be able to, you know, be allowed to live here. I did not make $45,000 a year at the time. I, again, was like just really scraping by, but I was friends with my boss and I was like, hey, like, can we just like do a little something to like rack it up to 45K? And I also just like wrote something like, oh, like I make this much a year from YouTube. Here's like some proof of income. I don't really know. I just like tried to like accumulate a couple jobs that would get me to that threshold, which I didn't make at the time, which I think this is illegal, but no worries because now I'm making, well, I'm able to hit the threshold. So what I'm trying to say is keep that in mind. Like your income does make a difference, but once you're in, they don't check your income. And when you renew your lease, they still don't like check your income to see, hey, are you still making enough? Which is really lovely because when COVID hit, my income was like, and I really had to like scrape on by. So just a little fun little tip that I would give is that. Okay, so chapter 2 is budgeting. As you may know from the other videos that I have made, this is something that I struggle with a lot. I just don't have a very good established relationship with money. Like my financial, how I've always been is like, I make enough to get by. I have never had a lot of money where like I can like do like, you know, like I just kind of use what I have until I'm like empty at the end of the month, which is really bad. But you know, I think everyone's relationship with money stems from like their parents' income and it kind of bleeds into like who they are as a person when they're adulting. Like if your parents really struggled when you were a kid, then I imagine you're like really pinching pennies when you're older. Or if your parents weren't really careful with their money, then you aren't really careful with yours. I don't really know, I'm not a therapist, but budgeting was really, really difficult to kind of like understand, especially when you're like moving in alone. What do you do with like utilities and like what do you do with like paying rent? How do you not miss a bill so it doesn't affect your credit score? What even is a credit score? What I will say that has been really helpful is auto pay. The reason setting up auto pay on your bills is really good is because a lot of the time we're forgetful. We forget that we have to pay our rent on a specific day, and sometimes utilities has like their payments on like the 15th or like a random day out of the month, and when you have a lot of them going on at the same time, it's super easy to forget. Also, these companies will give you a discount if you are set up on auto pay. So what I did was I have auto pay on all of my rent, my bills. I have it on my utilities, my internet, my water, my gas, my apartment unit, monthly rent, and it's been really helpful because my credit score has not suffered. There's no opportunity for me to forget, oh, I have a bill coming up. A thing that I would really recommend is having an Excel sheets or a Google Sheets document of, at the very least, what do I know is a reoccurring withdrawal from my account. So what I did was at the time, it's really, I just have a really good mental organization, so I don't really use Google Sheets or any of that. I know a lot of people do, and those people are a lot better financially off. But at this point, I'm just kind of like, this is horrible advice. I don't really know. I just kind of like have a mental log. So, but what I would recommend that you do is get a Google Sheets every single month. Try to keep track of like, I'm paying this much for rent, this much for my bills, this much for entertainment, this much for my car expenses, this much I can write off, stuff like that. So So yeah, I just want to be honest, like I'm not going to claim that I have a whole great budgeting system. I'm fully aware that everything's paid at the end of the month. And for me at this current point, that's good enough. I'm just glad that everything is able to be paid for, but I just need to, you know, watch what I spend my money on, like don't eat out too much. Oh, is that something that I can talk? Oh, well, I'll get into that in a second about like feeding yourself. But yeah, so let's just like close budgeting and let's move on. I want to talk about utilities. Utilities is like my nightmare. When you move into your apartment, oftentimes your leasing agent will give you like a welcome packet where it's like, hey, we have a really great relationship with AT&T, like down the street, like you should, you know, get your Google Fiber from them, or hey, we have a good water company that you should work with. So like ideally your leasing agent can provide some recommendations when it comes to setting up your Wi-Fi, your, you know, your gas, all that stuff. Best tip, keep a record of the account numbers and how much you're spending on your utilities. Sometimes if you're living in an older complex like the one that I lived in before this one, our electricity bill was skyrocketed because it was such an old building. I really had to be careful about like putting the heat on in the winter times and the cool on in the summer times because the building was so old. So it just sucked out like every, oh my God, it was so expensive. Like some months it would be over $100. But when you live in a nicer place that is like really energy efficient, you're not paying as much for those, you know, those months. I don't know if that makes sense. Oh, utilities, yeah, just keep track of everything. The account numbers are really where it's at, so. Oh, I almost forgot, renter's insurance. Some places recommend that, or some places require that. Oh, I need to renew mine. But every year you have to renew your renter's insurance, so you'll have to get it at some, I think it's required. So I do mine through State Farm and it's been pretty decent. Maybe your car insurance also does renter's insurance. Okay, now we are on the topic of feeding yourself. What do you do when you move into your home? Like, what do you eat? Like, are you a cook? Like, do you not really cook that much? How do you feed yourself? And like groceries and saving up for that. First of all, groceries, let's start there. Okay, find a grocery store that you really like. I say this because I have a local grocery store chain for my state. I think you know what I'm talking about. Like for some states it's like Kroger's or Randall's or whatever. The one that's like the nearest to me would have been really convenient if it was nicer, but it's truly like super sketchy. I don't really feel comfortable going into that grocery store. I've had a couple like really bad experiences where like people would approach me like men. It just made me feel disgusting. And so it just kind of like ruined the grocery shopping experience for me. And when you live alone, a grocery experience is kind of like, it's like going out. It's truly like a time-sucking experience. I go to a Whole Foods that I really, really enjoy. I love the atmosphere. I have my own routine. I basically like make a whole circle through the grocery store, and that's what really helps me feel motivated to get groceries, look up recipes and all that stuff. So basically with like feeding yourself, my best tip is have 2 meals that you have locked down. 2 meals that you can make no matter what. For me, that was chicken. Something with chicken, like greens and a carb. Done. The next one was like pasta. So that was really easy for me. So I knew that, okay, 2 of those meals can create like 4 nights of meals for myself, or 5 nights. Then I was like, okay, I want to at least give myself 1 night of eating out. I don't want to cook. This is like a night where like maybe I have a really long busy day, I'm just not feeling it, I just want to like lounge at home. It's my happy meal. So then that would be like your 6th night, that would be like takeout. Then the next day could be like, I don't know, another splurgy meal that you could have, like you go out and eat with your friends instead of like cooking something at home. Frozen meals are the way to go as well, but I think it'll be really a good adulting move for you to learn some golden recipes that can just take you through every single week. And then when you'll learn that like cooking isn't that scary and it becomes therapeutic, then it'll take up a lot more time in your day. And that's like as living alone, I have nothing going on in my days except for like cooking sometimes. And that's been like my saving grace. It's been truly like a really pleasant experience. Okay, so the next chapter is essentials. Okay, so these are the surprise things that you wish you had when you first move into your apartment. For example, let's imagine that the walls are pretty bare, and you're like, man, right now would be a really good time for me to have had a hammer and nails. Like, it's those little things that you're like, oh my god, why don't I have that? So my list is have a hammer and nails, hang up stuff, whatever. The next one is paper towels, cleaning supplies, and a vacuum. When you first move into your apartment, it's gonna appear like the place is really clean. It's actually disgusting because when you have the utility people coming in doing your internet, I don't know, maybe you had some marks on the walls before from the other tenant. Oh, by the way, I'm so sorry, I'm skipping all over the place, but like if you move into your apartment and there are marks on the walls or imperfections, make sure that you note that and make sure you have photos of it, because when you decide to move out, they will literally screw you over and be like, oh, you didn't indicate that there were these nails in the wall, and you're gonna be charged for that. So whenever, you know, people are walking in and out of your apartment with like furniture, when they're bringing in the couch, these people are walking in with their tennis shoes and it just starts to pick up a lot of dust. So your place is actually filthy, filthy. So cleaning products, clean the whole place, vacuum regularly if you can. Try to get rid of dust, super, super important. Have really good cleaning products. The next thing is a trash can. So I really wanted a good trash can. Right now I'm using one from Simple Human, and it's really expensive. You really don't need to invest in that nice of a trash can, but I got one because I knew I would take this guy everywhere, every home that I went to. So it was more of like an investment. Food storage containers. That's something that I really forgot in my early stages because I was like, where do I store my leftovers? I had nowhere to put it, so I just kept putting like pots and pans in the fridge. Gross. The next essential is, you don't have to have this, but a TV. For the first couple weeks, I kind of like waited on having a TV. I was like, oh, I don't really need one right now. But when I was grieving a breakup, it was so depressing just like not having something playing or like watching a movie at night. Like, it just made me feel so alone. And while I never really watch TV, I'm really not one to like choose to sit and watch a show or movie. It was quite lovely in the beginning stages because it made me feel like I was making a home. And having music playing around, whether you have like an Echo Show or something where like you can play music, it just transformed the space. And I know this may be like a materialistic essential, but for me at the time it was so helpful. Okay, so the next chapter is decor and furniture. So I feel like a lot of people have the idea that when they move into their new apartment, they have to fully furnish the entire thing. But the beauty of living alone and furnishing your own space is doing it in your time. A few of the sites that I used when I was living alone were sites like Living Spaces, which is where I got my couch. All Modern is a really good site. It's like a sister company of Wayfair. Yikes. But that's where I got my desk, that's where I got my bed frame. Sometimes I would find my bed frame on All Modern and compare it to Wayfair because they would have the same product and sometimes one of them was cheaper. So I ended up getting my bed frame and my side tables from Wayfair. Goodwill is a great place to get baskets for your plants. This is from Goodwill. Love it. You really just have to have an eye and have to have like a type of aesthetic that you're going for, because if it's like a mosh pit of like whatever, it's just gonna look really wonky in your home. And less is more. You don't need to cover up your entire walls with things. Furniture, little bit of decor, chef's kiss, you're good to go. You really don't need that much. I would also go to Target, but honest to God, like I know people are like diehards of Target, but I truly really don't like Target. Like the quality is honestly hit or miss. But a lot of my bathroom essentials are from Target, so, and I've been quite happy with that a little bit. Oh, well that's it on the decor and furniture chapter. So pretty much those are the survival tips that I have for when you're moving out for the first time. I just want to say, it is so possible for you to thrive alone in your own space. Some of you, I know in the comments that you send, you're really struggling, and I just want to say that it's all a season, right? There are seasons to life, and some seasons are a lot tougher than others, and they build you up for a really nice season of happiness and meeting friends and meeting new people to learn about and all that stuff. But with all that to say, this is all very possible. You can do it alone. When you move into your space, I hope you make it something that inspires you, that you love. You come home from like hanging out with friends and you're like, wow, I love my space. And if your home is not where you want it to be right now, it doesn't mean it's gonna be like that forever. You're not always going to be in this financial pickle, or you're not always going to be in this home. Like, nothing lasts forever. It's kind of depressing, but like, you really can have so much to look forward to. But be very present, enjoy this chapter in your life. You will one day look back on it. I said this in like one of my earlier videos on living alone, but the reason why I wanted to kind of make ends meet and live in a really nice place like this is because I knew one day, hopefully, I would have the honor of having kids and being with a significant other, and we would be living in a home and my life would be chaotic. And I will look back on this time that I spent with myself and I'll look at it with like, you know, loving eyes. So with all of that to say, I hope that your experience moving into your home is pleasant. Do your research, be on top of it, you know, get help, but also just know that you're confident and capable. You're very capable, and it's all about being strong in who you are. And when the tough nights come, take it for what it is. Tomorrow's a new day. You really have to be your own biggest fan, and you have to be your own supporter, because a lot of us are dependent on other people to make us feel better, to make us happy, but it all comes down to you. You are the only one that can provide closure for you and happiness for you. And these are things that I wish I learned a little bit earlier on, but I'm not upset about it because I have learned everything in the timing that's right for me. And that is the most beautiful thing I have ever ended off on. I hope this was helpful for you. I think that's how I'm gonna close the video. If there's anything that you wanna say in the comments below, would love to hear that. Are there any adulting videos that you want me to start segueing into? I would love to do videos on that, but they have a lot of great videos coming your way, and I'm just so excited to film those for you. So I will see you in my next video. If you like this one, give it a thumbs up, and please make sure that you are subscribed. So love you guys.